Hello there. I hope you're doing great. This is Emmy Pahavera Carpo. I'm a CPA, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Basics of Accounting. So in this video, I will teach you about the ledger. All right? So let's dive into the details. All right. So our topic in this video is about posting. Posting the journal entries to the general ledger. Since you already knew what journal entry is in our previous video, we might as well just define what posting is. So, posting is the process of transferring to the ledger the same information recorded in the journal. Oh, why should we duplicate our records when the transaction is already recorded in the journal? Why the need to post or transfer to another book? Well, it is because in the general journal, you simply record the transaction of on a chronological order or according to their date of occurrence. Therefore, it is very inconvenient for you to look for the items of similar nature because they are not sorted or grouped together. Okay? So, what do I mean by this? Let me explain. You remember in our last video, we discussed about journal entry, right? So, this was it. If you notice it in here, the transaction is recorded chronologically. January 2, January 3, January 10, probably on the next page, January 30, February 1, etc., etc. Now, if at any given point in time, you want to know how much is, let's say, your cash balance, it is very inconvenient and time-consuming for you because the information for cash transactions is spread among the various transactions recorded. Due to this inconvenience, there is a need for a ledger where transactions of similar nature are sorted out. So therefore, a general ledger is an accounting record in which business transactions and events are recorded, sorted, and summarized. Let us see how the inside pages of this ledger look like. So this is the inside page of a ledger. If you notice it, the ledger looks like a letter T. That is why sometimes it is called a T account when you are talking about an individual account in the ledger and you want a graphic representation of it. So there are two sides found in its page of the ledger. The left side is the debit side and the right side is the credit side. So if you notice it, there are usually 8 columns found in a ledger. The first 4 of the debit side comprises of the date column, the details of the transaction called particulars, the reference number column, and then the debit column. On the right side of the T account is the same for credit, the date column, the particulars, the reference number, and the credit column. For you to understand this, let us try to post these journal entries here to the general ledger. These were our journal entries made in our last video with a little variation. Let us post first the very first transaction, which is debit cash and credit Chan Cruz Capital. The first thing that you should do is go to the ledger and locate the cash account from the general ledger. So step number 1, locate the corresponding account, in this case is cash, in the ledger and transfer the entry from the journal as follows. The date, the explanation, the amount, and the page of the journal where you got the information. Okay, so let's do it. Let's go to the general ledger and locate the cash account there. So here is the cash account and it is under account number 101. Take note of this account number as we will be needing this when we return to the general journal. Now, let's put in the information. The date was January 2, initial investment. The reference number is J1, meaning to say journal, page 1. This means that you got this information from the journal, page 1. And debit 500,000 pesos. Again, as I said, that you should take note of the account number, which is 101, because our next step is place under the reference column of the journal the account number in the ledger to which the posting is made. Okay, let's go back to the journal, page 1, and write under the reference column the number 101 pertaining to the ledger account where you transferred this information. Okay, so let's post the second account which is credit John Cruz Capital 500,000 pesos. Locate John Cruz Capital account in the ledger, and then take note of the account number 301, and then write the information. The date was January 2, initial investment, information taken from the journal, page 1, and it was a credit of 500,000 pesos. Again, take note of account number 301 because we're going to go back to the general journal and write this account number under the reference column pertaining John Cruz Capital account. Okay? So, you can do by yourselves the remaining transactions if you want to practice posting. Just follow the 2 steps procedures. Okay? But let's pretend that we have already posted all these transactions, the January 2, January 3, and then January 10 transaction to the ledger. And then let's say that on January 10, you decided you want to know your cash balance. You ask yourself, how much is my available cash balance as of this latest date, January 10, 2020A? Well, all you have to do is to go to your ledger and look for cash account there, and presto, you can see this information here. So the January 2 debit was posted, the January 10 debit was posted, and the January 3 credit transactions were all posted. And as of the latest, January 10, 2020, you have a total debit in the amount of 510,000 pesos and a total credit of 150,000 pesos. What does this mean? Oh, this means that there was a total increase in asset, most particularly cash, as of January 10, 2020 of 510,000 pesos, and there was a decrease in cash of 150,000 pesos. In other words, you have a cash balance of 360,000 pesos as of January 10, 2020. This is the cash available for spending as of January 10, 2020. We will discuss this in our next video called Trial Balance. So using the ledger, you can see your individual account balance at any given point in time. Okay? So, the relationship between general journal and general ledger is that the general journal is the book of original entry, meaning to say this is the book where you record your transaction for the first time. The general ledger is the book of final entry, means its journal entry in the general journal are posted to the general ledger. Therefore, information recorded in the general ledger always comes from the general journal. The two records are cross-referenced to each other by the use of the reference column. Okay, so that's all for today's video, and if you want me to continue make more of this kind of video, make sure you comment below. And hey, don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. Thank you.